Hello. What I'm going to show you here is SharePoint Online and how to actually utilize the capabilities within its environment. So to begin with, what you're looking at here is the default team site when a tenant is provisioned. Now you'll always have this singular tenant or a tenant similar to it, and how you actually utilize it will be by creating sites, document libraries, custom lists, um, and doing many of the capabilities within each one of those areas. So what I would like to do to begin with is actually show you some of the capabilities within SharePoint Online, describe some of them, and go into some detail with regards to a lot of the areas related to sites. So to begin with, the first thing that you're going to want to do, as an example, if you're dealing with the team site, is let's create a document, right? So I'm going to go to Site Contents, and when I do this, I have the capability to add an app. It's the very first thing that you see here on the left. And you have the ability, when you select this app, to create many different types of apps. So one of the basics is a document library. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to create a document library and call it Communications. In fact, we'll just, because it's a team site, call it Project Communications and say Create. When I do that, you'll notice here that this new icon has just showed up and it says Project Communications here. If I click on this, what's going to happen is it's going to take me to a Project Communications site. So what is interesting about this is it looks just like a OneDrive site. Now, there's a significant difference in a Project Communications site, or in this case, a document library. So the primary difference is total amount of storage space. In OneDrive, an individual user has the ability to store up to a terabyte of information. Within SharePoint Online, a site collection has the ability to store up to a terabyte of information. So if your entire site collection exists as a single document library, certainly you would be able to use it that way. But the idea behind SharePoint Online is not just to create a singular document library, but provide a collaboration platform to actually manipulate information for a single or multiple documents, collaborate with regards to project management tasks, collaborate with regards to any number of business processes that you would want to put in place. You can do within this. To create your own sites and push those out to the web as well. So as an example, in the case of Google Sites, you could do that same kind of thing, grant that kind of access, and actually utilize or have your users utilize those sites as they see fit. While at the same time, you also have the ability to enforce a degree of governance so that they all manage to a specific branding or template theme if you wanted, or give them the ability to do whatever they wished to it. So with that said, again, this is very similar to a site. To give you an example as to how that's used, I'll go ahead and just drag up from a file explorer a document, and that'll go ahead and upload, and you'll see it there in a moment. I have the ability, while that's uploading, it's a document of fair size, to go in and actually do a number of things. One thing that's important here is that on the Library tab, you have the ability to modify views, set the share and track information, such as set this library up as an RSS feed, sync to your local system if you wanted to, or go in and do something like library settings. If I click on library settings, this one document library has a lot of capability in it, right? So the idea is this: you have general settings, the columns that are in this library, and the ability to create specific views. I'll speak to a couple of these briefly. If I go in, I can change the list name and description. Let's say I want to say the proof of concept documents for effective project Project communication. And I'll hit save here, and I could put it on the quick launch if I want. In this case, I'm going to say no, just go with the default. And you'll see that my description showed up right here. I also have the ability to go in and specifically modify versioning settings. By default, they will not, create major versions will be selected, but content approval will be turned off, okay? So that's important to note by the fact that there is no embedded workflow. As soon as you start, if you want that, you can turn it on just by selecting it there, and you can then in turn say who gets to approve which items within that list. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off again and say that if anything, what this message is saying disabling it, if there's anything in place, they'll also appear in public views, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and say OK here. It'll go ahead and save and show you a little bit on the advanced settings side. All right, so content types. At its core, content types are a base unit within SharePoint. A content type describes a piece of information, right? So what I'm talking about there is a content type may be a document. I might have another child content type that is a template specifically built upon that parent document. That child content type might also have additional metadata fields, and that's what's going to define what a content type is. The type of metadata fields and your purpose for it will actually define what a content type is. You have the ability to manage those. And I'm actually going to slide down here and just show you some of the other things as well, and then come back to content types. So you have the ability to open documents in the browser. You can actually say the default is always open in the browser. So that's very valuable by the fact that if you're in a situation where loading your client applications is going to take a lot of bandwidth, what you're really going to want to do is open it in the browser. Now, additionally, you have the ability to, say, make new folders, which is kind of simplistic in its in the idea that why would I ever want to do this in a document library? But when the concept of folder structures came out in SharePoint, it made a lot of sense for a lot of people because they could relate it to a file system. And that's how it should be thought of in this context, is a new folder is very similar to the way it works in a file system. But in the end, every individual document lives in that larger list that is the document library. You have the ability to search, have this document library appear in search results, and do many other things. I'm going to go back up here. I want to just show you briefly allow management of content types and say OK. That gives you another ability on this side to modify content types. You'll see that right here. I can say add from existing content to cite content types, and up will come this. So if I wanted to, I could have this document library also include not only regular documents, but images, right? So when I say OK there and it adds that, you'll see that image shows up here. When I go back to Project Communications, and I say new, it's going to ask me, I'm sorry, let me do something different. I'm going to go to Files and say New Document, and I can create or upload an image here. And it'll ask me which image do I want to use there. So that's what I wanted to show you there. And so you get the idea behind the document library. It is a very functional piece of capability within SharePoint Online, and it operates very similar to OneDrive. So we're back on the team site homepage. I'm going to select Site Contents again and show you one other very valuable piece of information. When I select Add an App, I have the availability to create a custom list. Now by that manner, by utilizing custom lists, and I will just type in some custom list. You'll notice that it's right here. If I select it, it looks very similar to a document library with a few exceptions. You'll notice information out here. so far, and it doesn't say library, it says list. What I want to show you here is I have the ability within the list settings, and I could do this within a document library as well, but I can create a column, right? And I'm going to say, in this case, column 1, and it can be any of these types. Now, you might go, these types look somewhat limited, but they're actually not. You have the ability to hit external data. And when I select something like external data, it's going to come out and say external content type. Where does this data live? Recall in an earlier conversation I mentioned content types. Data that exists in any type of external database would be considered accessible via an external content type. Additionally, I can change it to a hyperlink or a picture, a yes, no box, multiple choices. So as an example, if I had a choice menu, you'll see that I have choice 1, choice 2, choice 3. I could go further, change that to 4, 5, 6. I could say that they're required. I want them radio buttons or checkboxes. I could do either one. I could have a default value. I'm going to choose none in this case, and then go and say OK. So I'm also going to go back and ask the question. I'm going to make this almost a, actually let's just do this, department name. And I'm going to make that a choice control as well. I'm going to go through and put in down here HR, IT, finance, facilities, general management, electrical. Let's keep that under facilities and just call it housekeeping. And when I have that there, I'll just go ahead and say that I do not want a default choice, and it is a required field. Now once I've actually added these two columns, what you can see I can also do is I can go back and edit them, right? So if I go back to column 1, I'll say, let's call this shift type. Call it 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Get rid of that extra there. And it is also a choice. And in this case, we'll make it not radio buttons, but a drop down. Require that so you can see the differences. And that'll be there. One thing that I do want to do is actually update title. And we'll put in employee name. And say OK. So when I do that, let's say that I had a form that I wanted or information that I needed from a set of employees requesting their, we say that we had to change our shifts soon. How would I do that? If I go into this custom list and I say new item now, a form will come up which will allow me to do that. I could type in any name, pick the shift that was from that drop down and the department, and then just hit save. Let's do that one more time. We'll have him go 3 to 11. Now what I put a couple of them in there is for the reason that if I actually go to quick edit, you'll see that it automatically goes into a Excel based view when it comes down to it. I could even come down here and say Julie Anderson, have her pick which one she wants, and also do it this way. So if I needed to do multiple individuals like that, I could do that. And what I mean by that is I could also just drag this one. Let's do this. I'm going to drag this down here So Julie Anderson's in there twice, but it's saying I don't have data here, right? I could also drag it here and do this and just change Julie Anderson's name, and that's all that would take. So it's really pretty easy to add new list items within a list. Certainly it's also capable to do it within Access. You could create an info path form for it. You could even go in and actually set up a workflow so that at any time something has been changed or added, certainly you would be able to do that here. I won't go into the workflow settings right now and how you set up workflows. That'll be done in a different video. But anyway, getting back to the team site's homepage, you get the idea about how to create site contents and specific document libraries and lists. Now, one thing that I am going to do also here under site contents is I'm actually going to hit the back button and not select a new app, but create a new subsite. So if I wanted to, I can say my site's title is, let's do this, I created a, let's make it even easier. Just make it easy there. I have the ability to do a team site, blog site, project site, community site. There's a number of enterprise versions, business intelligence center, a record center, all of those kind of things. And I'm going to go ahead initially and say I want to do a team site, just like the one I have. And go down here and say we'll go ahead and put it on the quick launch. Yeah, keep it on the top bar, and we'll continue to use the, don't want the top bar from the parent site. So what this is doing is it's actually right now creating that site. And here's the new site. I created a site. You'll notice that it's actually under the root site for that site collection. So you go, okay, now what do I do with this? Let's say that I wanted to edit a page. I'm going to go and select page off the ribbon, hit edit, and here's a page that I can go in and modify as I wish. So one of the things I'm going to do here is actually come down to this very bottom area just to show you how this happens. I'm going to go ahead and add a web part. A web part is a piece of functionality that I can add to any page and allows me a lot of flexibility with regards to the type of capabilities it offers. I can add blogs, so you can get ideas here. Business data, which allows me to go out and grab information from Excel or Visio or show data in a business item list that it resides in a SQL server somewhere. I can do content roll-up, meaning that if I have this site and I have people in tasks or in subsites, sub-departments that have created information, they can roll up their tasks to a larger site. That would be one example. Going back to the community, I can actually create a community if I want, which is very much like a discussion board. I can create document sets. Document sets are related to document libraries. Filters, forms, media, and content, and I'm going to stop right here because this is what I want to show you. If I go here and see content editor, what that allows me to do is if I hit add, a content editor web part is a basic web part used throughout the SharePoint Online capability or the SharePoint Online sites in general. If I say edit web part, what will happen is if I can go here and say click to add new content. What this does is it puts me into a rich text editing mode. Okay, so what I mean by that is this, and I'm going to show you another example in a moment. But I have the ability to go in and type in anything that I want here, and let's see, do I still have it? I have choice 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to actually go back here and select my lorem ipsum background that I had saved. And paste that over, allow the access, and you'll see a lot of content in there now. I can change the fonts, various sizes. I'm going to bring that one back down to something more readable. I can alter the layout of that. I can change colors of certain selected items. We'll make that a little pink. Change the whole thing back to a blue. You get the idea there. I can even go in here and make these all bullets if I want. So there's a lot of capability with regards to this, but one thing that's important to note is that if I wanted to, I could edit the source. This is HTML source that I have the ability to go in, or anybody does, and I'll do that one more time so you can see it. If my cursor's anywhere on this page within my content editor, you'll see on the top right of the ribbon, Edit Source. I select that. I'll go put in a hyperlink and hit OK. And you'll see that here at the bottom, CNN appears, right? And if I wanted to, I'm actually going to say save, so you get the idea there. When it saves, it's going to save it as it looks. I'm going to select CNN, and you'll see that it's going to actually take me, in this case, CNN. So really what it's talking about here is showing you how to actually deal with a rich text field, modify a content editor. On this individual page, you'll see that I've got a documents library here. Again, I could just pick some kind of document. Let's call it, I've got a video on e-discovery. I'll just drag that up there. You can see that it's uploading as well. So you get the idea. There's a number of capabilities within this site. There's a lot of really cool features. I would like you to check it out. Go explore. There's a lot here that you can do. So thank you for your time.